What is happening? Welcome back to the Contingent on You Listening podcast. My name is StevePloetz, here with my co-host Isaiah Hernandez.
What's going on?
Contingent on You Listening podcast, a podcast sponsored by Century 21 Award affiliated, talking all things real estate, talking about market trends, things that we can do as agents to not suck as much as we suck, those different types of things, and broadening our horizons with some of these shows. I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today, but what you're talking about here is you had mentioned actually had a little bit of a successful open house.
So this is another weekend of an open house. Did one in Winchester. It was about 3,000 square feet, 4-bedroom bath. It was very nice.
So it's
slow.
So wait a second. So we're at the beginning of 2023. 3,000 square feet in Winchester goes for
$660,000 right now.
Overpriced? How was the fee?
I think it's a little overpriced.
We won't tell the listing agent. You're not the listing agent.
I'm not the listing agent. No. But I did share that with my clients. Because the backyard is little to none, and for a house that big, it's very nice interior. But going back to the open house. So again, I held it for 4 hours. Little to no activity because I only had 3 people show up. But out of those 3 people, I'm proud to say I captured 2 out of those 3 with information. So I think that success rate is like 66%.
I would say when it comes to open houses, that's the critical thing.
Right.
Of course, we're trying to get people in the door for the listing agent, especially when it's not your own listing, so that the seller can get a feel for their fingers on the pulse of what's happening in the market. But for you personally, you're trying to build relationships with people walking through the door.
Yep.
So
build up my database, so I was able to add 2 more people.
More people. We talked about that. That was a goal early. Hey, what we are talking about today is I mentioned kind of broadening the scope here. We've brought in a very good friend of mine, the world's best financial planner. And I know technically, sponsored by a real estate company, I'm supposed to say this is not careful, liability. This is not financial advice. But we're going to just kind of talk the role of financial advisors and realtors, the symbiotic relationship that is there, how we can, as Saul said earlier, scratch each other's backs, but also kind of get into some of the similarities between the two industries. So I want to kick it over to my good buddy, Billie Cook, Terramar Wealth Certified Financial Planner. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome, Billie.
Thanks for having me. I feel honored to be a guest on the Contingent on You Listening podcast.
Look at that. Hey, well, all 4 subscribers, well, maybe they'll follow you.
Are 3 of the 4 in this room?
I was going to say.
I love it. So, hey, kind of what I wanted to start talking about, and as kind of we talked about off air at the beginning, we're filming this in January of 2023 with the expectation that it's probably not going to air until April or May. So I don't want to talk too much specifically about the market, either the real estate market or the financial market, but I more kind of want to talk about in general. It feels like if we're not still in a market that has a lot of fear, we've kind of are emerging from a market that has a lot of fear. How do you advise your clients when they're afraid?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think the benefit of my world is I work with a lot of different types of people, probably similar to your guys' world, and not only different people, but geographically different. So I've got clients in not every state, but I'd say probably 25 states across the United States. Nice. And so the market looks so different for everyone, and what they're experiencing in the market and the fear they're experiencing is different from place to place. And so, we always focus on trying to tie what they're trying to accomplish back to a plan and making sure that all of their goals are aligned with that plan. And if the plan hasn't changed, a lot of times our strategy is not going to change just because market conditions get challenging or the stock market's down or bonds are performing poorly or Zillow says their house is worth less or whatever it is, right? A lot of times we're just going to keep going back to the plan and making sure that their goals are aligned with their plan and that they're invested in trying to accomplish that. And if that's the case, then a lot of times we're just going to advise them to stick to the plan and hold tight. And this isn't the first recession we've been through. It's not the last recession we're going to go through type of a thing. It's not the first challenging market. It's not the last challenging market. And so just continually working back towards that with our clients.
You talked about a few weeks ago something that really resonated with me. You said something to the effect of, in a changing market, people discover their tolerance for risk. That when the market's going crazy, everybody's like, oh, I'm high risk. I want 40% returns. But then all of a sudden the market adjusts and they lose 10, 15%. And then they discover, oh, maybe this ain't my thing.
Yeah.
I just think that was really poignant in just kind of some general advice. And so what I wanted to do was kind of tie it to real estate a little bit. So a couple of quick questions for you. One, what do you think is the average age that a consumer hires a financial planner?
Good question.
Ooh, that is a great question. I think it's one of those things where the average probably doesn't tell the whole story, because I think it's on the fringes, right? I think most people, it's going to be triggered by some sort of life event, whether they inherit money, they have some sort of windfall, whatever it is, right? Or it's going to be right next to retirement, just after retirement, or the person is just wired as like a planning type of personality, and they're going to engage with a financial planner way before they're ready in their 20s or 30s. Right?
Isaiah, do you have a financial planner?
I do not. No.
And how old are you?
I am 28.
So 28, you got a wife, 2 kids, and bought a house.
Bought a house. Yep.
And would you agree, Billy, that that's pretty typical?
Super typical. And I would say, as a oversimplification, most people in their 20s probably don't need a financial planner, because a lot of what you're doing at that point is just budgeting, right? And what I'm going to offer for someone in terms of budgeting, they can find on the internet. There's so many great resources for that don't cost them a thing. Versus, if they come into our office, then we're going to have some sort of flat fee structure that's going to cost a couple $100. That's going to be way better used towards saving or paying down debt or whatever it is, right? And that's a conversation we have with younger clients a lot of times is, hey, we're happy to work with you, but based on your situation, I would just focus on X, Y, Z and use the money you would pay us towards X, Y, and Z. Right?
And I've had those conversations before with like financial. I have like alumni who are in the financial planning business, and like they've talked to me about that. And I think the main thing why we haven't gone with one is because we're still budgeting right now. You know what I mean? I don't have that extra cash to really use your services right now, but I would eventually like to get there. That's what I'm doing now. But yeah, I think that's right on the point.
But you had a budget to buy a house.
I did. Yeah, I did.
I mean, let me pry into your personal life. FHA?
FHA, yep.
FHA, so 3.5% down. You bought at $400,000 or $500,000?
380, yeah.
Okay, so call it $400,000. So you had to save $12,000 for your down payment.
Yep.
You had to save for closing costs.
Yeah.
Did you get a gift or did you?
It was gift. It was gift. I had some gift money as well. So it wasn't like, hey, we had the 3.5% down ready and the closing costs covered. Yeah, we got that gift money.
It just seems to me that as an agent, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help especially first-time home buyers, build a plan. And it seems like an easy way to do that would be talk to a CFP. Like, go talk to a financial advisor who can help you build a budget.
Totally.
Who can help you get an idea of, I mean, you must have some of those clients, yes?
Yeah, and I'll say, again, as an oversimplification, right, or as an overgeneralization, like a lot of financial advisors just won't turn people away because it financially doesn't make sense for the client, right? They'll try to fit whatever they have into something that benefits them as a financial advisor. And so, a lot of times a younger client is not going to go walk into, a guy who's in his 50s that's been doing this for 30 years because they're just going to say it's not worth my time. So then they're going to end up working with a younger advisor who doesn't have a lot of clients, maybe doesn't have a lot of revenue, and they're just trying to maximize revenue from every person that walks through the door. And whether or not that's a great fit for the client in the door is to be determined, right? I think there's an argument to be made on both sides of it. But I would say in general, most clients in that age demographic can get all of their planning needs on the internet. Now, whether or not they're disciplined to stick to those budgets and things like that, I think that's kind of where the value add comes into play. Is if you're paying $1,000 or whatever the number is for a financial plan, you're likely going to be a lot more motivated to stick to it versus if you go on to.
It's like hiring a physical trainer versus like
totally
shit. I could get an LA Fitness.
$25 a month
membership.
Totally. Yep.
I can go over there and I can figure it out and I can watch what other people doing. And my goodness, I can go to YouTube and Google.
Totally. Get a
and
workout
I can do
plan.
it.
Yep.
And I can do it. Or I can hire a pro that creates a little bit of accountability and gets things going. I feel like, I don't know what it's like for you, Isaiah, but for me, first-time home buyers that want to buy a house but aren't ready today, and they need 6 to 18 months. I don't do a great job about helping them build a plan.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out one of the ways to do that. And of course it's through budgeting, and there's different, and hey, we can look at the end. If what you want to buy is $500,000 and you want to go FHA, you need 3.5%, you need $20,000 with closing costs. So we need to put you in a place where if we're doing that in 18 months, you need to save $1,000 a month after everything. So you need to put that money into a savings account or something like that. I guess I was looking for an easy out, Billy, where I could just give those people to you.
Well, and I'll say, I mean, we started working together 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And before that, I don't think you had engaged with your financial planner very frequently. It was just kind of investments that were out there and just kind of there. And I would say,
so a little bit of the background, just so the viewers and so Isaiah are aware. I met Billy through a networking group probably 7 years ago. I had a financial advisor that my parents he was their financial advisor. And so my parents hooked me up when I was 16, started me having put money in a 401k and a Roth, like, hey, this is what you should do. I know it seems silly to put money in your retirement account when you're 16 years old, but that is what you should do. We've all seen the guy that invests from 16 to 25 and then stops investing versus the guy that invests from 25 to 60. The first guy makes more money. We've all seen those little charts. But I wasn't very engaged with my financial advisor, and arguably, partially because he's a lot older. I was young. There was high levels of trust to, like, this is my parents' guy. I'll just throw the money in there.
Yeah.
And that level of engagement wasn't there for me.
but also, I mean, how much value could he have really added to your scenario early on, right? You're worried about paying your bills, finding new clients in the real estate world, right? All those sorts of things that aren't, to be fair to him, those aren't like something I can help you with, or I can help provide a plan. And then from there, even if I provide a plan, it's really on you to stick to it. I'm not sending out like a weekly text saying, hey, did you save $250 this week towards your down payment?
Yeah.
Which maybe that's something we should do to build out some sort of process for younger clients, but it's really a tough relationship because there's no way for them to compensate us for our time without taking away from the things that they need to do, and so it's really kind of this neglected group of individuals, I would say.
I was going to say,
jump in.
I like this conversation because I think and this is just new, this is just what I'm hearing out on social media and stuff. When a lot of people think about working with realtors, they think it's as simple as just, hey, they're just going to show you a house and that's it. Like they're not worth that 6% that you're going to pay or whatever it is. And so I think this conversation is so important because with what Steve is getting at, and this is something that, for people who were raised similar to me, who may not have had that financial, 16 years old already talking about this. Yeah, I was like, that's insane. I've never even heard of that. No one in my family was doing that. So like having those conversations
do that
early,
with your kids, please.
Yes, I will. And that's what I'm saying. Like having these good conversations is awesome because like this is the value that realtors should be adding on top to their clients, like with certain situations. You know what I mean? Like especially with first-time home buyers, like it's more than just saying like, okay, I can show you some homes and I help you with the negotiation contracts. But if you get agents who are, clients who are 6 to 18 months timeline to buy, getting them on the right path, or at least having somewhere to advise them to, point them to.
Here's newsflash: everybody wants to buy a house.
Yeah.
Everybody does. Everybody that we come across that, like, it may be off in the distance, but they understand. Hey, values go up. You pay the principal down. Like, people aren't dumb, but the problem becomes the gap between where I am now and where I need to get. Because here's the problem: I feel like every realtor does is if you tell me, hey man, I want to start to buy a house, most realtors say, go talk to a lender. Let's see what you qualify for.
Right.
And they feel like, homie, I don't qualify for shit because I don't have any money yet. But I'm trying to figure out how to build a plan.
Totally.
And the price point, generally speaking, for a first-time home buyer tends to be lower than other price points. It just feels like this is a challenge. So I guess here's my roundabout question. The team here has told me I got to be far more succinct in my questions, but I get going and I go down rabbit holes. What should be a trigger that I need to hire a financial advisor? Is it when I get a real job? Is it when is it?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's different for everyone, right? I mean, there's some people that may never need to hire a financial advisor. And so, a couple
What demographic is that?
Yeah, true.
So I would say if you love researching investments, Sorry, I'm getting raspy here.
Yeah. I'm putting you on the spot. That's why.
If you love researching investments, you're not emotionally tied to seeing the value of your stuff fluctuate, and you can, implement a plan and stick to it. Like, by all means, you could do what I do on your own. The reality is, though, nobody is unemotional when it comes to their investments, including myself, right? I mean, I'm probably the most aggressive investor that I work with is myself. Yeah, that I represent. And when I see my account get hammered, I mean, it's not fun. And I just don't tell my wife. I only bring up the good days.
There's the real advice.
Yeah. You got to segment the bad days from your spouse. Sarah, she's going to hear this. But I think it's different for everyone, right? And so for some people, it could be when you get married and you're joining finances with a spouse and you guys have different ideas of what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, that's a great trigger for a lot of people, is to say, hey, I kind of think we should do things this way. I think we should do things this way. Can someone just give us some unbiased advice on what we should do that's not emotionally attached? And I think that's the value that financial advisors can bring to the scenario or to the table is, I'm not emotionally tied to your scenario. I want to see everyone succeed, but I just look at, from the clients I see that are successful, from the data that's out there, and your scenario, really what you should be doing and maybe where you could make things more efficient. And then that's where we can bring value.
My parents do that, just so you know. They are no longer with that guy that when you met me I was working with. And they instead basically manage their own stuff. And like once every 6 months, they go meet with somebody who they pay an hourly, like they probably, I'll just guess, $500, $1,000. They look through their portfolio. They know where these people's interests are as 70-year-olds. Like, they're not looking for risk. They're looking for dividends, stuff like that. It's interesting to hear you say, though, like...
And that's something that we have clients in that boat as well that just say, hey, I like doing this on my own, but I just need some ideas, right? And then they pay us a flat rate, and we give them ideas based on what they're trying to accomplish.
You guys can do a lot of kind of a la carte, we'll say.
Totally.
Like, I mean, you talked about flat fee, and we don't need to get into the fee structure with all this stuff, but it sounds like there's a lot of different ways that it can be set up. I mean, that's why my feeling... I'm not allowed to give any advice, especially not on a podcast that's sponsored by a large company. But my advice would be, talk to a financial advisor super early. Like, talk to them when you're 15 years old, and you're talking about getting a job at Jamba Juice, and they, I don't know, maybe at part-time, they offer some kind of like matching blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Totally. And that's something that like I'm always happy to do. And I think most financial advisors that enjoy doing what they do, same as you guys as realtors, right? If someone can't buy a house right now, but they want advice on the steps to take, you're not going to just say, hey, call me when I can make a commission on this. You're going to help them, right?
Yeah.
Same with us. If I get a 20-year-old, and I have this happen, parents that are clients of ours, kids get their first job, like, hey, can you talk to my kid?
You're going to talk to my daughter early.
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately. Yeah. And it's probably going to be a similar scenario where by the time she's ready to invest, you're going to be 50 years old or something like that. And so then she's going to start out working with you and be a tiny little portfolio, of literally $4,000.
And I think the difference, too, is this, like, the parents are, like, you're just in their lives so much that at some point stuff just starts going in one ear, out the other. Right. But then when you go walk into an office that all we do is financial planning and advising, I think it has a little bit different weight. The same way, like, if I harped on my kids someday to go out and buy a house as soon as they can or whatever the advice is, that's going to weigh differently than if they talk to someone that's all they do and that has built a significant amount of wealth doing that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Billy, I wanted to ask you because one, Steve mentioned that you guys work together, and there's like a little bit of there's a business partnership there. And now, as a new agent like myself and many others who are listening out there, what would you say? And Steve, chime in as well. Best route to go for like building that relationship with a financial advisor and realtor? Like, what would you say?
You guys might have the same opinion on your industry. I hate financial advisors. They are like the worst demographic to hang out with. Yeah, like I will not go to like an industry.
Not you that's listening.
I will not go to an industry happy hour event. Right. I just don't want to hang out with other financial advisors. No, it's hard to say because I think a lot of times it's viewed as like a competing interest, right? A lot of financial advisors view real estate as taking money out of stuff that they could advise, and realtors probably view investments as money that's taken away from investment properties and other things.
About that. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times it's viewed as this like adversarial relationship where we're competing against each other for all the dollars. And in reality, I mean, all of my best clients that have built wealth, they own more than one property. They have investments. They have all these different things going on. And so I think a good financial advisor will encourage their clients to go out and buy investment properties, do different things with their money that makes sense within balance, right? I don't ever think it should be all one or the other. I think you need to be diversified, not just, in your investments in the market, but also across the types of asset classes you own. And so I'd say the first thing is you got to find a financial advisor that also believes in that, right? That believes that there's multiple assets that clients should own, and they shouldn't just have all their money in the stock market or life insurance or annuities or whatever it is. And then they also have to be wired towards planning, right? I think that's the other thing is if all they want to do is manage investments and not talk about a plan or what we're trying to accomplish, it's going to be very hard to get them on board with helping clients want to accomplish some of those life goals.
And so we've talked, since I obviously have a relationship with you, and about that financial advisors can't receive reviews or it's difficult or something like that. Where would a new agent find financial advisors? Like, I mean, finding a realtor is you basically just go into the mall and say, I need a real estate agent. And 50 people start
Especially
running
in California,
up at you.
for sure.
Exactly. Where would you start? Where would you find a good...
That's such a good question. I mean, if I had to find a financial advisor, like, where would I start? I would probably start with the people that I work with that I trust, that have built wealth, and who they work with or who they know and like. I mean, I think that's the best one, is go to the person that you know and like, that you view as
Personal
successful.
referral.
And ask them for who they work with or someone they've met that they liked, right? I mean, personalities aren't always a great fit. And so ideally, if that person can give you a couple of different people they've come across that they know and like, I think that's a good resource. The internet is just like the Wild West, I think, in terms of financial advisors. You may come across someone that barely has a website that is a phenomenal financial advisor, because a lot of times we don't get like cold leads or we don't get people walking into our office. So I wouldn't put too much weight on their website and things like that. But another resource you can use to kind of vet them is called Broker Check. Broker Check allows you to see if they have any disclosures or complaints against the financial advisor, and then you can kind of review them to see what disclosures and complaints they have. Now, some of those are going to just be crazy clients that, complain to complain, and even if the complaint gets disputed or dismissed, it still shows up. But if you meet a financial advisor and they've got 10 claims and they've all been paid out to the client, that's probably someone you don't want to work with.
So, how needy are you for a realtor service within your job? Like, how often do you need?
How often do you need Steve?
How often do you need me? But not in a, hey, I need to refer Steve because you need to sell a house. To answer Isaiah's question, my feeling is the best way that I can meet somebody that I don't know is I'm offering some kind of value to you.
Totally.
So my question is, as realtors, what's the value that we can bring to a financial advisor?
Yeah, I think I've asked you in the past. I meet with a client and they say, I have a property in Santee worth X, right? And so then I'm like, Santee, I don't know the market that well.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess the house is not worth $1 million just based on Santee values, right? And so
we're
a lot
losing
of
our Santee viewership.
Just plummeted. Sorry, Santee. So I mean, that's one resource, is I like to just have information. I mean, my whole thing is I just want to be really good at what I do. I don't really want to be a real estate expert. I don't want to be a mortgage expert. I don't want to be a tax expert. I just want to rely on people in those areas. And so when it comes to real estate, I'll just ask Steve a lot of times, hey, what do you think this should be renting for? Is this rental property performing? What do we think it's going to rent for in the future? Is this a good place to own it? What do you think this value is? Are they close? Are they off? Like, is this really worth this? And then we can kind of go down that route. But in reality, when it comes to, and I would say this is similar to a lot of financial advisors, most of the time I get the call after they've sold their home or after they've decided to do something, right? And then what's frustrating on that end is we can't make any changes, right? If there's taxes, we can't help them, whatever it is. So we wish that clients would engage us more on the front end, but I don't know if I gave a great answer.
Absolutely, no,
that's good.
It's very
like
good.
that, yeah.
It's very good. It's just determining it. So
right.
we could talk for another 25 minutes. And Billie, it's so fantastic to have you on. I always feel like there's such knowledge and humility as well. I appreciate you being here with us, kind of talking through it.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us yet again here on Contingent on You Listening, the podcast that is opening new doors all the time with new people in here, helping you be successful in all of your real estate needs. So hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Thanks again.
Thanks for listening.